And counting. Dan Miller on the call. Lions season ended on Christmas. Stoney, why did it go wrong?
For a variety of reasons, and many of them were forecast before the season. The coordinators, especially offensively, in my opinion, became a major issue early, and then the injuries and some of the other stuff really hurt the defense that Kelvin Shepherd. I'm not ready to write him off yet. And it's not just the injuries, but I also believe when it went wrong for me was probably the Minnesota game after the bye. You were 4-1, if I'm not mistaken, right? And you had a bye, and then the Vikings come in and you lose to that team. And J.J. McCarthy was not playing very well. He had a decent game in that game, and you lost. And then the injuries just started piling up. And of all the injuries, everybody always talks about, the secondary and, Brian Branch and obviously up front. Laporta and Brock Wright almost simultaneously, but that's what really screwed up their running game because they were so good in, at least with Laporta and Brock Wright at times with pre-snap motions, they would block. That's what their bread and butter running plays were, and it just disappeared.
I think that's more subtle, but losing both tight ends, it has an impact.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not blaming the season on injuries. I'd never do that.
Because, again, I'm watching the Niners play last night on Sunday Night Football without Fred Warner and Nick Bosa, and they're chasing a 1 seed in the final week of the season.
Yes.
So you can't – and, again, the Steeler game, they're missing the left side of their offensive line, and they run for over 200 yards against a healthy front seven for the Detroit Lions. No, I don't think it's injuries. I think it's that they fell in love with their own.
Some of them, yes. The Davenports of the world.
Think about it. At almost every juncture, with every problem they're facing, you could trace it back to connect the dots, fell in love with their own. So the offensive line, you lose Frank Ragnow, you lose Kevin Zeitler. The answer was, we trust our guys. We're going to fill internally on the offensive line. The defensive line, when people were getting loud in the fan base about needing to bolster the group, we're good. We like our guys. No big external additions. Bring back Levi Onwuzurike. Make sure we have Marcus Davenport on another deal.
Pascal, all these guys.
So falling in love with your own on both sides of the line of scrimmage. But it goes beyond that. You had 2 coordinator hires to make. You went in the family for both. Morton had been here previously.
Right.
Kelvin Shepherd was on the staff. Now, you can say that you don't want to give up on Kelvin Shepherd. I like the person, but let's call it what it is. His defense was terrible down the stretch with a healthy front seven. I know safeties are part of the run game, but you got linebacker level and D-line healthy, and that's the performance. Could we not point out the Eagles, who had to do the coordinator switch back-to-back years?
Correct.
And it paid off and they won the Super Bowl. I'm just telling you, they fell in love with their own from a talent standpoint, coaching standpoint, and Stoney, they've re-upped a lot of these guys.
I was going to say almost a financial standpoint.
2 years early in a lot of cases. They had fallen goo-goo gaga, infatuation. Everybody we have is so freaking good. Why would we seriously make external additions? Why would we look outside for new coaching ideas, new talent? What we have is so much better than all these loser franchises in the league that we can just roll out the ball, show up with our helmets, and beat everybody. And that was far from the case. They couldn't win back-to-back football games. If you want to say, when did this change? You identified the Vikings game. Mm-hmm. To me, it was weirdly enough a win. The Giants
game.
So they play the Eagles tight, but the Giants game was the first real ugly defensive performance, and that became the constant for the rest of the year. They no longer had the offense to hum and blow people out, and the defense forced them to play that type of football.
And they tried. You make a great point. Look, Holmes was, even at the deadline again, not getting, or at least trying to get Jason Phillips. Look, you're not the whole Crosby, Garrett, and all that stuff. I think is BS. Okay, but there were people out there that could have improved this team, and they opted not to do it. Falling in love with their own, including their draft choices, because they thought that Ratledge was going to be good enough. And he had some decent games, but he was a rookie.
Yeah.
To sit there and try to improve that offensive line. No, the offensive line. If you really want to go back to what was wrong with the offense, yes, my Laporta tight end take is more subtle. It's the Ragnow thing.
Yeah.
They never adjusted. They were not prepared for it. And that is the disgusting thing because he was so good and they couldn't figure it out. And whether they wanted to believe him or not, whether you want to blame Ragnow himself, that was the key. This team was built. Everybody loves all the bells and whistles of J-Mo and Gibbs and Goff and St. Brown, and with good reason. But this team became this team because of the offensive line. And when the fulcrum, the most important part of your team, disintegrates, you're done.
Yep.
And we can talk quarterbacks all you want. In this league right now, if you don't have a good offensive line, you ain't doing squat.
No, and look, Jared Goff, I'm sure you guys got a ton of Goff stuff last week. He played terribly on Christmas Day.
Well, look, the two games that eliminated them, go back to the Washington game.
Commanders.
He has not played well.
Look, and I'm not going to defend the way he played on Christmas Day. I'm not going to defend the way he played in the playoffs last year. All I'm going to do is point out that right now he is second in the league in yards, touchdowns, third in quarterback rating. And it's very obvious he's sacked this year more than any year in his career. The big issue is they let him down.
Yes.
They can't run the ball like they used to. They can't finish short yardage, red zone. Running the ball in key situations is off the table for this football team. Like, that's their big issue right now.
They used to bully people.
I know.
They used to sit there, and why do you think the running game was so good? It was because the offensive line would push the other team, defensive line, a yard, 2 yards past the line of scrimmage.
And you could see it. I mean, clear as day. You got 3 yards of push.
Correct.
You're getting to the second level. These are big chunk runs.
Yeah.
248-539-9797. The question was, why did it go wrong? But when is also an interesting way of looking at it, too. When did it flip? And you think the Vikings' first meeting, clearly it ended officially with the Vikings' second meeting. 248-539-9797. Let's get to Adam in Gibraltar. Adam, good morning. You're on 97.1.
Good morning, Costa. Good morning, Stoney. How you doing?
Good.
I mean, I'm not doing good. I mean, Lions ain't no playoff football. I mean, what we doing here?
I know.
Yeah, this starts and ends with the offseason with Brad Holmes. And like you said, to your point, Costa, with falling in love with your players, signing them early. I mean, with Gibbs, this whole thing with Gibbs, do you sign him now? Do you wait, or do you wait until the running back market is skyrocketed, or do you franchise tag him? They got a lot of interesting decisions in this offseason. We thought this offseason was going to be a big one, but no, this next one is going to be the biggest one on where our window is, if there even is a window anymore. Because look at it like this: Darren Orlovsky said on I think it was First Take that you graduated from phase one of your rebuild and your window of Super Bowl complacency. Now it's time to go to your phase two, to where you're building around the core, where you think who is going to be on your team going forward. It's time to build around those guys, and now you have interesting things with, Branch, Achilles. He's not going to be the same probably. Kirby, that bone-on-bone injury. Oof. What do you do with his contract? Because you already paid him.
Yeah.
And then you got the Anzalone. Do you re-sign him, or do you draft someone in the second or fourth round at the linebacker position, or do you go out and get someone? So Brad Holmes has a lot on his plate this offseason to add to the team. And
he's going to have less cap space than ever before. So
that's going to require him
to be more creative, more cutthroat, to have harsh conversations. Yeah. And I think some of this, too, now, they've boxed themselves in.
Yeah.
So the cap space shrinks. The easy part's over. It's easy when you pick in the top 10 and you can get Penei Sewell. It's a lot harder when you're picking in the bottom 10 and you get Terrion Arnold and Tyleik Williams. I'm just saying, and the cap space is now a crunch. You got to restructure some deals. And at the same time, you can't double down on your own.
No.
You can't make the same mistake twice. You are going to need impactful external coaches or players or both, and you're going to have less dollars to spend. So this is where it gets harder.
It's really difficult.
We're going to do window talk at some point. The window's not closed.
No.
Look at the Niners. They were a 6-win team a year ago. They're playing for the 1 seed in week 18.
And by the way, no Bosa, no Warner. Kittle didn't play. Trent Williams didn't play most of the game, right? And they still won. I don't hear about injuries.
248-539-9797. Overreact, Jim's coming up top of the hour. More of your thoughts on the Lions. Why did it go wrong? It's 97.1.